Look at a map of Niasia, and your eye is immediately drawn to one of its largest landmasses. It's an island spanning nearly 180,000 square kilometers, split down the middle between two deeply opposing nations. On the eastern half sits Damogo. Their nation is built on smoke, massive iron foundries, and the sheer inertia of heavy infantry. Their culture revolves around industrial labor and mass land warfare, a place where soldiers carry weapons forged with built-in blades, and citizens wear their scars as marks of honor. Between them lies no man's land. It is a belt of trenches, ruined forts, and buried ordnance stretching from coast to coast. This cratered earth serves as a permanent physical memory of decades of brutal conflict. Sharing a border with an aggressive, heavily industrialized war machine usually forces a nation to match their numbers or face total occupation. Nia took a different path. They abandoned the land to dominate the sea. In Nia, admirals wield more political influence than generals, and the military treats violence as an equation solved with absolute mathematical precision. They survive because they understand that true power in this archipelago comes from weaponizing the mastery of movement. This cultural obsession with calculation begins with Nian biology. They possess a physical trait called brindling, a pigment cycle tied directly to the planet's light phases. As environmental light intensifies, their skin darkens in mottled patches to protect them, then lightens as the environment dims. This constant environmental adaptation produced a society that prizes scientific observation. Nians map the stars and calculate the tides, raising their children to master knots, balance, and astronomy before they ever touch a weapon. Nia builds their fleet as floating laboratories and high-precision artillery platforms. These ships prioritize clean lines and intellectual luxury, with interiors designed for the study of the stars and the mapping of the sea. This chart shows the specialized geometry of their vessels. On the lower end, the 35-foot scout sloop, called the Precise Vector, is built for speed and mapping. On the extreme end, the Geometric Sovereign spans 170 feet, carrying a 100-person crew. Every ship in this hierarchy reflects a military doctrine of restraint. They prioritize fast, long-range vessels specifically engineered for interception and area denial rather than conquering territory. These platforms are manned by the Tidebound, a civilian monastic order devoted to the mastery of motion and mathematics. When a Tidebound monk fires a ballista, it is an exercise in physics. By perfectly calculating wind, drag, and arc, they ensure every strike lands exactly where it needs to, treating artillery fire as a calculated martial art. This methodology drove the expansion of the Nian world. In 112 BCE, scientists followed a flock of white-tailed geese into what was believed to be an empty northern ocean, chasing trails across unknown waters. This expedition discovered the Draz and Elmar lands. Recognizing the potential for shared knowledge and resources, Nia formed the first trans-regional alliance between the three nations. When Damogo launched raids to enslave the Elmar people, Nia used this alliance and their surgical naval warfare to respond. By 89 BCE, Nian Precision had systematically dismantled Damogo's slave trade and forced the abolition of slavery across the region. Scientific observation, simply following the flight path of birds, is what established Nia as the tactical arbiter of the Nia-Sia Pact. By the year 0 BCE, the leaders of the major nations signed the Nia-Sia Pact, establishing a framework for cooperation and trade across the archipelago. But on the island Nia shares with Damogo, peace is not built on trust. It is a pressure system where violence is held back by cost. Damogo knows that triggering a land war would immediately result in a Nian naval blockade. The mathematical cost of losing their coastal trade to pinpoint artillery strikes is too catastrophic for their industry to bear. In this era, power is defined as the control of movement and vectors rather than the occupation of land. In a world of extreme biology and violent geography, the ultimate weapon is the mind that calculates its strike before the sword is even drawn. Nia demonstrates that when you master the tides and the stars, your restraint becomes the most effective deterrent in the world.